Okay, so ready to dive in. Today well, it's something you see every day, right? Social media. But specifically, its relationship with misinformation, which is, well, tricky is putting it mildly. We're looking at this document, and it gets right to the heart of it. Should we regulate social media?
Yeah, it's a debate that's, well, it's everywhere you look these days. What I found fascinating about this document, though, is it's not just opinions. We're talking real world stuff, examples, data from big players like the Institute for Social Research. Oh, and even the Digital Freedom Foundation. So, you're getting both sides of the coin.
Which is what we're all about here,
Hmm.
giving you the full picture so you can make up your own mind.
Yeah.
So let's start with, I guess, the argument FOR regulation. What's the document say?
It argues that misinformation is a huge problem, like huge EE. And not just, harmless stuff. This is about swaying how people think, eroding trust in actual news. It even suggests it can lead to, well, social unrest.
So yeah, pretty serious implications then.
Yeah.
But how does it back that up?
It uses the 2016 election in the US as a prime example. Remember all those fake news stories? Shared millions of times. The document's point is that wasn't just random stuff happening online, it was like targeted campaigns to mess with voters.
It's kind of chilling when you think about it like that, how easy it is to mislead people online. And this is where that data from, was it the Institute for Social Research comes in?
Exactly. They found a staggering 60% of social media users admit to falling for or sharing misinformation. Think about everyone it's most of them. Shows you just how easily this stuff spreads.
Okay, so on the one hand, regulation could protect people from being, well, manipulated. But then there's the flip side, right? What about arguments against controlling what we see online?
And this is where it gets really interesting. The big concern the document brings up is censorship. The argument is that social media's strength is that it lets so many viewpoints exist, even the ones that seem a little out there.
So it's about protecting free speech, even online.
Exactly. And it warns that too much regulation, that could create a situation where only certain viewpoints are allowed. Like, imagine an online world where everyone has to agree.
That's a pretty unsettling thought, not being able to voice an opinion because it's unpopular.
And it's not just theoretical. They give examples. Actually, the Digital Freedom Foundation places where these strict rules actually made government censorship worse. It's a slippery slope, for sure.
It's like this balancing act, isn't it? You want to fight misinformation, keep people safe, but you don't want to end up silencing people either.
Yeah.
Tough one. Have you, like, personally ever come across something online that just felt off, made you question what you were reading?
Oh, all the time. Happens to everyone. And that's why this is such an important debate. It's not about finding one right answer. It's about, understanding how complicated it is.
Well said. Even, tech giants like Elon Musk are getting involved, suggesting some rules might be necessary to stop the, as he put it, willy-nilly proliferation of fake news.
It's definitely not simple, that's for sure. And to really get it, we have to look beyond just politics, see how misinformation plays out in the real world.
You're right. So let's do that. What about, for example, public health? You mentioned vaccine hesitancy before.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. The document talks about research linking disinformation about vaccines online directly to more people being hesitant to get them. And, especially during outbreaks. That's serious. We're talking life or death for some people.
That puts it into perspective for sure. Makes you realize this isn't just some abstract problem.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just health, too. This document looks at how misinformation impacts businesses, even just what people choose to buy as consumers.
So it really is something that touches every part of our lives, from our well-being to our wallets to how we see the world.
Exactly. Which is why this whole debate, should we regulate social media? It's so crucial. It's about figuring out how to navigate this new world of information.
Yeah.
How do we protect people, but also make sure everyone's voice can be heard?
Well, you've definitely given us a lot to consider. Before we jump into solutions, though, I want to make sure we've really looked at all sides of this.
Yeah, and there's, well, a lot of nuance here. The document, it does a good job of showing how real the harms of misinformation are, but it also says, hey, we got to be careful about the downsides of regulation too. Like I said, a real balancing act.
So not as simple as saying misinformation bad, regulate everything.
Exactly. See, it argues that if governments or even just the platforms themselves start, cracking down too hard, it could backfire. Imagine a world where people are afraid to speak their minds online. What if you get censored just for disagreeing?
Yeah, definitely wouldn't want to create a space where everyone feels like they have to agree.
Right. And the document uses this great metaphor. It talks about the ideal online space as a marketplace of ideas, a place where you can have all these different viewpoints bumping up against each other. It argues that too much regulation just makes that whole thing sterile.
Yeah.
Like suddenly there's only one kind of stall in that marketplace.
And they have, like, actual research to back this up.
Oh, yeah. They cite this study from the Internet Society. Basically, they found that places with really strict content rules, they saw less diversity in the information being shared online. So, yeah, like I was saying, shutting down stalls in the marketplace of ideas.
Interesting. So it becomes not just about whether something is true or false, but making sure that people can even talk about different sides of an issue, right?
100%. And that's their point. The document argues that if you try to control information too much, you end up silencing people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that limits critical thinking, debate all the stuff you need for a healthy democracy.
It's like, what's that quote? Something like, I disagree with what you're saying, but I'll fight for your right to say it.
Exactly. And sometimes that's the hard part, right? Defending free speech, even when you don't like what's being said. Now, don't get me wrong. The document isn't saying misinformation is fine, but it is saying, hey, when we're talking about solutions, let's make sure we're not messing with the very idea of a free and open internet.
This whole conversation makes me think about all those times I've shared an article without really, checking if it's true.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up, especially if it's something you already agree with.
That's the thing about social media, isn't it? It's designed to play on those emotions, make you want to share stuff, connect with people who see things your way. But that also leaves you wide open to misinformation, especially if it confirms what you already believe.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So if just, like, laying down the law isn't the answer, what does the document suggest? How do we fight misinformation without going too far?
Well, there's no easy answer. It admits that. But it does talk about some promising approaches like media literacy, using tech responsibly.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Okay,
It's like,
yeah.
instead of just taking down content, you give people the tools to figure it out for themselves, right?
Yes. And the document gets pretty interesting here because it moves past just the whole censorship debate and starts talking about how education and tech can actually make the online world a smarter, safer place.
All right, so let's talk solutions then. What do they say about how we can use those things, education and tech, to fight back against misinformation? So we've talked about how tricky misinformation is and, well, how do you even regulate social media without, like, causing more problems? Did this document give any answers? Is there hope?
Oh, there's hope. They talk a lot about media literacy, basically giving people the tools to think critically about what they see online.
So, like, turning everyone into a fact checker.
It's more about, teaching people to question sources, spot biases, actually evaluate the evidence.
Okay, I like that. But you got to start young for that, right?
Yeah.
What about people who, like, grew up without all this online stuff?
Right. And the document, it suggests that platforms, they could actually build those kinds of tips right into the experience. Like, imagine you're scrolling and you see a little reminder, hey, double check that before you share it. Or a link to, I don't know, a fact-checking site or something.
Subtle. I like it.
Yeah.
But we can't forget about technology's role in all this.
Yeah.
What'd they say about that?
They actually spend quite a bit of time on AI, specifically how it can help flag stuff that might be false. So picture this. AI running in the background. It spots something fishy, alerts the platform, gives them a head start on stopping it from spreading.
AI is a whole other conversation, though, right?
Yeah.
Feels like there's some risk there, too.
For sure, for sure. And the document, it's not naive about that. It says, look, AI is a tool, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
These algorithms, they can be biased themselves, and there's always that chance of a false positive flagging something that's actually legit.
So it's like proceed with caution. AI can be part of it, but not the whole solution.
Yeah, exactly. It always comes back to that balance, right? Using tech, but not at the expense of, free speech, diverse viewpoints.
This has been, wow, a lot to think about. Misinformation, regulation, AI, it's a lot. If we had to leave our listeners with one thing, what would it be? What's the big takeaway here?
The document, it ends on this great point. It says that the best defense against misinformation isn't, censorship. It's not even some fancy algorithm. It's people, informed, engaged people.
So it's about how WE all act online, not just what platforms or governments do.
Exactly. Being smart about what we consume, thinking for ourselves, and, being willing to have those tough conversations, even with people we disagree with.
Well said, well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. Next time you share something online, take that extra second. Think, am I helping spread misinformation? Or am I part of the solution? Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive.